Okay. All right, it's now recording.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
All right, so we need an approval, a motion for approval.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as posted for October 13th.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, so approved. And let's see. I just would like to remind everyone that Felicia has been so wonderful with keeping our website running really well, and I really appreciate that. And she is pretty quick about putting up our meeting recordings and our resources as they come into her. And don't forget that we have meeting handouts and, of course, the minutes and recordings of all our recent meetings up on our website. So if you ever can't make a meeting, or if you want to go back and rewatch something that you might have think you missed or like to hear it again, you can certainly easily do that. So
Feel free to bother me if something is missing.
will do. And including the master class in November with Brian Gans, which I think it went swimmingly. It was effective, even though it was through Zoom, and he did a great job. And so if you're interested in watching it, that is on there as well, that master class from November. Did anyone have anything to say about that particular master class?
My student enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and the idea of doing it with students that are at that level was fantastic. I don't remember how it all evolved, but never had much opportunity for that, and it was great to have a student to put in.
Exactly. I felt like it was a nice practical application for us teachers, since it's the ages that we normally teach.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. My student loved it, and he actually, he was the first one, but he stayed around and watched the whole thing.
I noticed that.
So did mine.
Yeah. Lucas was quite a trooper. He just sat through the whole thing. Nice job with him.
Yeah, he ate it up. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, moving on.
Can I ask, because Lucas's family is usually very careful about posting photos of their family, and I don't remember them giving approval for posting it online.
For
the masterclass, for posting video.
Well, first of all, this is not public. It's members only.
Okay.
So only members can access it.
Okay.
Yeah. But if someone here thinks that that's still an issue, maybe we need to rethink what we do there.
If it's members only, I think it's all right.
I can tell you what the National told me when I was preparing Dorothy Sutton. You have to put in your language that this is a class, an event that certain people are going to be invited to, and you should declare what it is if it's going to be on YouTube, is it unlisted, is it by appointment? You have to declare what it is, and people, as long as you're saying what it is you're going to do, people have the option not to participate.
Okay.
That makes sense.
People don't have the right to demand all the parameters under which you run your event. You state the conditions under which you're running it, and people decide whether or not they want to participate.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I could do that as president when I put out the email, but I just assume that everyone, all the teachers understand that it's going to get recorded and put on our website like it's been happening. So I would think it would be up to the teacher to tell the student that that's the case, and then to not sign up the student if that student has an issue with that. So, however, it does kind of seem to fall on my responsibility to make that clear.
Miriam, I recently sent out a very brief checklist of, having parents sign and return what, whether they approved of their child via having a recording or a picture, because we did a couple of recitals via Vimeo. And the problem I am getting is that the parents don't bother to send you back forms that you ask them to send back. You're lucky if you get half of them, And when you've announced, it's like when I ask them, oh, it's okay. I don't feel you have to have my permission. And yet that's the same parent that could bite you in bite you if you look cross-eyed at them. So my question would be is how do you get parents to read, number one, what you send them, and number two, return what you ask them to return without feeling like you're harassing them?
If you
I agree with
created
what
a
John, am I talking
sorry.
when
Well,
somebody
I
else
think
is?
Felicia was first.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. If you created the permission form in the form of a Google document, would that hold up legally?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Data's
if you
electronic documents are documents.
okay,
Yeah,
so
they
if
are.
if you like a Google form, Carol,
Yeah.
maybe that would be an option that people are more willing to sign, they sign by typing in their name, because the whole, I don't know, people are so burdened by PDFs, and Google form might be even easier.
I'm not sure that's all of it because I'm finding that they're so overwhelmed by emails. They're not reading anything. They don't want you to call them on the telephone and they don't want to read your email. So, you're kind of you're up a creek without a paddle.
Might I also suggest one more thing, and that is every year for my home students anyway, I have them fill out a registration form. And maybe what I could do for my students is include on there about that. So
Yes.
what they have to all sign it and give it back to me.
Right. We did that. I did that when I was practicing dentistry. It was on our permission form from the parents. So we would go into schools, the parents weren't there, but there was just, a couple sentences on the permission form for the year saying that I acknowledge my child will be, photographs of my child will be used for promotional purposes. Or educational purposes.
And then have the parent and the student sign that registration form so you know that everybody's read it.
Yeah,
Or
or
just
at
parent.
least the parent, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that when you get teenagers, you've got to have the kids sign it too, so they feel like they're a part of the whole. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's a good idea, the registration form. I tend to do a registration form, but it doesn't include that. And it would be easy to include it at that time. And then they wouldn't feel like they're constantly getting additional things to do.
What is it you're trying to get their permission for?
Just to give, to allow you to have a picture, to know that they're doing a performance on something that other people are watching. It's basically within the studio, but I still feel like they need to know that, Susie might send it to her grandmother and her grandmother might send it to all of her friends. So you don't have, once you've let that thing go out in the air, you don't really have control of who sees it. And I'm just wanting to be sure that the kids are aware that once they do it and it goes out into the cyber world, who knows who's going to see it. And but anyway, I appreciate the input. It's just a matter of making sure your kids are protected.
What National told me you have to be concerned of is you need to get people's concern, like let's say you're holding a competition and you want to have a press release for the winners where you can't control who sees it. But for example, if you're doing a recital for your students, and one thing, I'll mention this later, but like what I'm doing for my upcoming recital so that parents and they can invite family and friends, I set up the meeting so that they have to register. So, and I told them that, of course I can't control this, but I said that the link may not be issued on social media and that they have to register by a certain date and I'll check their name and admit them. But if you're not doing things publicly, and you're holding a competition or a recital and people are performing and you make that known, National Event has told me that's what you need to do. You need permission if you're going to do things like press releases or make a poster or put it on social media or use it to promote your studio. But if you're just having a recital with kids to perform, you don't necessarily have to have a form.
Okay,
And if it gets out onto social media by accident and not by fault of your own, it's fine.
Exactly. They said they said that that's what they were advised. So, I mean, I had to ask these questions because I was running a festival involving 350 people. So,
got it.
so I looked, so they showed me what they did for their competitions, followed what they did. So, but I think that, we don't need to recreate the wheel too much. Taking I mean, of course, anyone who really wants to invade someone's privacy and has the technical knowledge to do it, I guess they can. But we do have to realize if we're doing musicians and performance is part of being a musician, you're going to put yourself out there in front of people who've never met you and may never see you again. I mean, that's the nature of what we do. So we don't necessarily need a form for a private performance.
Got it. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
but that was a question I had to get answered, and I did have questions about privacy from some parents, and I had to get advice about it. So, I want to just say again that the national organization has done an incredible job providing legal resources for teachers. You can find a lot of questions just by going to their website. You can find out about copyright. You can find out about privacy. You can find out about liability. And they're extremely responsive. If you're a member, they will call you back. I was amazed when I called them and I said, I'm running a virtual festival. I have no idea how to do this. I've never been on a state board before. I had 4 people call me back within an hour.
Wow.
And within
Very
3
nice.
days, I spoke with people in 6 different states.
Wow.
We're part of a great national organization, and it's staffed by people who think that our profession is important and that people who do it deserve support. So that's a great. It's very good. It's very good to know that.
That is downright heartwarming.
Yeah.
Yes,
No,
it
really.
is.
I even had one of the things was I had one member who was pretty cantankerous and was making kind of a threatening claim. They lived in one state and their students lived in another, and it created some eligibility problems. And
Ooh.
So Gary Engel, within an hour, called me back and he said he wrote a strongly worded letter and he said, "This is what you tell that member."
Okay.
Yeah.
What-
So
What was the outcome? And I'm interested in hearing that because I'm in a different
our
state
policy,
now.
our policy was upheld. Basically, I'll tell you the long story. If you want to enroll your student in the Dorothy Sutton Festival, since it's a festival and not a competition, the student must reside in the state of Pennsylvania. But if you are teaching them and you're not in Pennsylvania, then you simply need to add PMTA to your NMTA membership.
Oh, okay.
So if you're teaching in the online world, if you start teaching people out of state and you want to enter them in local events, you have to check what the eligibility. You might need to join more than one states. And you know what? This is not unusual. I mean, I'm sure Gene can talk about this, and lawyers and doctors often have licenses in multiple states for reasons like this.
Yeah.
It's a common professional thing. So when I taught public school, I got licensed in 4 states. These are things that they can really provide a lot of assistance with. And of course, the people on the state board are amazing at helping too.
Jonathan, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about because I just entered this party,
Yeah.
but I heard that you said something about joining PMTA events from other states. And I can tell you just from past history, there was a situation where we had a person from Maryland joining the Dorothy Sutton on a regular basis.
Yep. That can
And
be
this was a
done.
number of years ago, and there was a bit of flack about it. And PMTA at that point had a policy where you couldn't join a Dorothy Sutton from another state.
We
No.
we discussed that. This was the way it was resolved is if you're from Maryland and your student lives in Pennsylvania, you can enroll that student if you are also a member of the PMTA. So a teacher who lives in Maryland can join PMTA, if they have students who live in PMTA, who live in Pennsylvania and want to enter our events. So that was what they did for that. And it was amazing. National, they had a record right in the file, and they said, this is what we did several years ago. This came up. And I was amazed that they had it right at their disposal. Like they said, I'll save you the research. This is what it was. So, but that's the idea. You have to, there are also things that are different between competitions and festivals. Festivals have more latitude for the association. Competitions have slightly different guidelines, which I won't get into because they're very complicated. But anyway,
All right,
these are
thank
things you
you.
learn.
Thank you, everyone, for your input on all of that. So Primetime Players, Carol, you and Jean are planning a little something for Primetime Players this month. Would you like to elaborate?
Probably Jean's better at this, but Jean contacted me and suggested that since we hadn't been successful in getting Primetime Players here in person, and we didn't expect it to happen again this month, she suggested that we do a Zoom. And Jean, jump in and correct me if I got this wrong. But we're going to try a Zoom meeting for Primetime, and people can play for one another, or we can talk, music talk, whatever we want to do. But she had suggested, and Jean, will you explain to her, people that we probably are all going to be invited to play the first movement of the Mozart 544 Sonata? Am I correct? I'm doing this off the top of my head.
5:45, yeah.
545.
Yeah, a little bit about that if you want. You know?
And basically, we're all going to play it at the same time on Zoom. But who knows what's going to
You
happen?
can't.
And
You can't
Susan,
play at the
you're
same time.
invited to join us too with your saxophone.
Okay, Jean.
So, let me tell you a little bit more. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
So we did an event like this for our Suzuki Association. It's called the Play-In, and it's a traditional thing with strings where everybody brings their little violin and they can play. Well, when we decided to do it online, the pianist had a chance to do it, and we had 74 people show up, students and teachers. And so what you do is you have a leader, or in this case, our leader is going to be Barenboim on YouTube. And I share that, and everybody else mutes, and you can play along with him. So we won't hear each other. Now, we don't have that ability because of the time delay. But, you know, you see everybody else playing on the screen, and it is actually, in a Zoom kind of way, it's a group experience getting to play with other teachers. So, so what I chose, or what I'm suggesting, is a piece that I think Sue's student did with Brian Gantz, the Sonata in C major by Mozart, K545. That's this one, dum, dum,
Yeah,
dum.
that was Henley.
And probably something that a lot of people have played at some point. And it's one of his easier sonatas, so you can also sight read it if you need to. And Susan could play the melody line if she'd like. I've heard sax before.
Included on the Mozart Sonata.
But you can do things on Zoom you wouldn't otherwise. So we're going to try that. Probably at the end, right, Carol? We haven't ironed out all the details, but
Yeah, we haven't ironed out all the details, but if you're interested, we've tickled your curiosity bump. Come join us on the 26th on Primetime, and you'll get a invite for a Zoom meeting and how to get into it. Okay. But
Does one of you have an account where you can do that?
I do.
Okay, Jean
I
will be
do.
the host of that.
Yeah, I'll be able to do that. So we can have up to 100 people. You know, we have to cut it off at 100 people. And so I could get more information out about the tempo. I found when I was playing along, I had to decrease the tempo to like 75%, and that was my usual tempo there. But I'll get a metronome marking out to people, and do you think we need the music? I could send a link to IMSLP, or do you think?
I don't think so.
Everybody's got a copy of
I
that.
think, yeah, and I think if someone doesn't, they could ask for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And just one idea is it's easier to play along if you have headphones or earbuds, because the balance between the recording and your playing is better. Sometimes if you don't have those, you have to play pretty quietly to not overcome the video or the leader. So if you have those, if you have that capability, fine. But otherwise, just turn the computer sound way up and play a little quietly, and you'll still be able to play along. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I missed prime time myself and that opportunity to play with other teachers. And, you know, I'm glad that Carol is game to take it on and lead the event. And I'll just host Zoom and do the little play-in.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it will be.
So that would just, I'm sure that would just be one of the activities that you guys could do during prime time. So yeah, I mean, we're also there to play for each other or just sit and listen to each other play. That's another thing too, or discuss things, right, Carol?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, we kind of have no boundaries as to what we are apt to talk about, because it depends on the person who comes in the door. But like Susan has been the only one that showed up when we actually had canceled one. Susan and I played saxophone and piano duets. Granted, I was sight reading and she knew what she was doing, but it was fun because it makes you, any opportunity in my mind's eye, if you walk away with one nugget of something that inspires you to be a better teacher, then the time you spend at prime time is well worth the time.
Another thought.
Sorry.
Another thought for this as a possibility would be to try to do the duetting situation where maybe somebody records the primo and, you know, everybody else tries to play with it, you know, in a playback.
I still think, I'm not sure if that would actually still line up though.
Well, you'd have to have the primo, or maybe the secondo would be pre-recorded, and then
yeah, that's what I
would
meant.
play that, and
recorded.
everybody would play the primo along. So only
You mean being muted and someone be muted?
everybody else would be muted except
Right.
for the secondo.
Right. So I was thinking that I was actually going to mention something like that. So let's say we're in prime time and you wanted to come because you wanted to see what this duet would sound like with two people. So you would play a part, and then I don't know if I'll actually.
I don't think that's going to work, because a lot of times when I've tried to teach, when I was working with my senior for her senior recital in May, she had pulled out an old duet that we had done a number of years ago called Chinese Dragons. And fortunately, I knew it, she remembered it. And I would play it with her, but when she was on FaceTime and I was playing, she could hear me fine. I could, basically you override each other. So you had to temper what you did so that you knew that you were together. Ironically enough, it worked well enough that we only played it one time in person and it worked, but we played a duet on two pianos in order to maintain social distancing. That was unique, but I think that's what you're going to get when you try to do a duet on Zoom or another media, because I'm not comfortable with headphones because I've never worked with headphones. That's a new media you guys have to teach me. But the thing is that duets are so on the moment, and so where you're adjusting to the person you're playing with on volume and sound and everything else. I personally am not sure how that would work.
If it's a recording, I think it's real time.
It's not, the fingers and the sound are not at the same time. There's a lag, and that makes it difficult with duets.
Aren't we talking about two different things here?
Yeah, I think so. Two
Okay,
different.
so need
Yeah.
to clarify, okay, when we are outside of Zoom listening to a recording, it's real time. Correct,
Oh, okay.
Jean?
Oh,
That's not the way I
Anyway,
was
wasn't
thinking
the
of it.
original idea
but-
proposed to like play with a recording?
Yeah, to play
Yeah.
the recording, right.
And
We
if the recording is coming from your computer, then it's going to be in sync with your playing.
Yeah, that was the idea. Yep.
Yeah. So
It
you
wasn't
could
to
do
do
it-
it in Zoom.
You could do a duet and play along with somebody's recording of a secondo, as well as, you know, playing with a YouTube video of a solo. And you know, Sue, if there's a duet that you wanted to share, I think you could record the secondo and send it to us, or you know, put it up in YouTube, and you could send it out, and then everybody would have to have the primo music somehow.
Or Susan could record her beautiful instrument and we could do a piano duet with her. I mean, it's a possibility of things.
I'd love to do a, you know, play at a.
Yeah,
you haven't seen the level of her accompaniments.
I think what I was getting at before though is if once we pick, once you know what you want to share with someone, with the group, you can send it ahead of time. So that everyone has a copy, to scan it ahead and send it ahead of time. Everyone has a copy and everyone can look off the music at the same time. And then you would mute yourself and play along with the main person who's playing. So if you are the one presenting the duet, you could say be the secondo, and everyone else would mute themselves and play the primo along with you to see how.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, and then the
Play the
person.
secondo in real time, yeah. And everybody else would just have to be mute and play. Actually, they could play either part then.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this might be a good experimentation prime time. See how things really work, you know?
Yeah.
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 I'll
well,
look
you know,
through.
you gotta-
I'll look
you
through
gotta
my
think,
duets.
Stay tuned.
I mean, before our Suzuki event, there were a lot of what we were wondering, because you know, it was the best we can tell. That's the first time in the world it was ever done as a piano play-in, and our leader was a 17-year-old from. Let me turn this off if I can. From California. So you know, we were wondering how it was going to come off, but you know, it was a lot of fun, and it actually worked really well. So you know, I guess part of the fun is trying something new sometimes too, and it's like a performance. Sometimes you never know what's going to happen, but it's always something interesting. And I'm looking forward to having something interesting and having more of my friends involved, you know, in making music together. Really.
And what another wonderful way to get together, right? And since it's on Zoom, there isn't too much excuse for us not to attend, unless you really, unless
You
you.
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe this will be our very first Zoom prime time then this month, and it would be very interesting. Okay. Thank you. And ladies, if you want to send me a draft of an email that I could send out, that would be great.
Oh, sure. We can work on that together.
Okay. All right. And don't forget, everyone, we still have the Mainline Muse blog, and anyone can contribute at any time. All you got to do is send it to our wonderful Vice President, Jennifer Campbell. Just a reminder that we do have the blog. Okay. Finally, we go to Super Saturday on our agenda here. It's January 30th. Unfortunately, it had to be very scaled down this year since Westchester is closed to all outside events. And so the only thing we're left with then is the master coaching sessions as a possibility. And Dr. Terry Kleinfelter is going to be our master coach. Joy, did you want to say just a few words about?
Dr. Kleinfelter is an incredible classical performer and jazz performer. So if you have a jazz student, this is a really great opportunity. She is totally willing right away to do something online in any kind of platform that your student chooses, Skype or FaceTime or Zoom. And the student needs to record a video and submit it. Just, I guess, so she has a sense of where the student is and what they're playing. And so the video would go unlisted to YouTube. I hope that we're all used to doing that by now, if we're participating in festivals and things like that. We have some great tutorial videos, Jonathan, on our website about how to do that. So if anybody needs to look up how to do that.
Klein did some good ones too.
Yeah,
that-
John Klein.
That
Yeah.
might actually be better.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well,
All right, and Joy, you took some lessons from her at one point, you said?
I took lessons from her. I took some jazz lessons from her. I can't say that I'm a great jazz player because of it, but but it was fun. And so, yeah, it's exciting to have, I think, a fresh master coach in our event.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, it's really not too hard to sign up. You just go to the registration for events page under the members only section. And don't forget the password for the members only section is in the front of the handbook. That way I don't have to put it in the email ever. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, what is the fee for the event, Joy?
I think it's
20,
20-minute blocks.
30, yeah, 20 minute,
$30.
20 minutes for $30, but I think there's a bundle somehow. If you do an hour or something, you can.
No, I don't think so. I
There's
think
not?
still it's $30 for
Okay.
$30 for 20 minutes.
All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
that's what I
30, 60,
recall.
90.
Yeah, and
There you
and
go.
you know, would it be appropriate to have some, you know, very beginner students? I usually do a master class for my studio. But you know, I've got some that are playing, you know, just beyond book 1 of Piano Safari. Would that be appropriate for Terry, or would you say just upper beginners?
I don't see why she would discriminate, you know, against somebody of that level. It would be terrible if she did, I think. I think that she should be open to whatever, because we have students of all levels, and it's just a cool thing for students of all levels to participate in events.
Yeah, I think I'll have students who would be interested.
Yeah. And of course, these are private sessions, everyone. So it's not like your student is going to be on display. It's just between you, Dr. Terry, and also, yeah, your student. So the three of you, of course, would be in on it together. And it's you don't have to memorize anything unless you have it memorized already. You could just play a part of a piece. It doesn't have to be a whole piece, to work on it with the professor. So
We've had, when Igor did it, there were a couple cases where there were some very wonderful students who had pieces that were in progress, and they and their teacher just wanted to get some advice for practice strategies and things. And those were wonderful sessions. So the master coaching is supposed to be an alternative to a master class because it's more wide open, it's more intimate. So it's really not meant to exclude anyone.
yeah.
When I did it with one of my students, also she was preparing for her RCM exam,
I
and
remember.
he helped a little bit with her technical.
Yes, he helped with her scales, I remember. And that was great.
Yeah.
We're lucky. Our friends at Westchester are world-class artists who care about teaching, and so we're really lucky to have them.
And Joy, thank you for contacting her and putting this together for us for your first Super Saturday.
Yes. Thank you, Joy. You'll be amazing.
Thanks.
Okay, and of course, there are some deadlines for that. I sent out the email a few days ago about Super Saturday, but the deadlines are to register would be Sunday, January 24th. So that's in less than 2 weeks. And the video deadline, though, is due just 2 days before that class. So that's accessible, I think. The Piano Festival, the Connie Murray, will be virtual this year, as you know. Ping doesn't look like she's here today to mention anything about it, but registration will open January 30th. Our Felicia is very heavily involved as well, just like she was for the Dorothy Sutton. And also, by the way, I didn't get a chance to properly thank Felicia for the Dorothy Sutton work that she did. There, even though she is behind the scenes, she does a good 50% of the work. I'm just sure of it, and I know that's the case with the Connie Murray as well. So so thanks to her so much for her tech abilities, her expertise. And we have the closing of registration is February 20th, and we're going to require score links and video links. And then what's wonderful about it is our Tenuto webmaster, the Tenuto web person Alejandro, has created a new judge sheet so that all you do is the students go to Tenuto web and they put their YouTube link and score link. They submit it on there yourself. So you wouldn't be the go-between for that as a teacher. You would just make sure you inform the students how to do that. And an email will come to you after you register your students. You'll get an email with the link on how the students can submit their items. And there will be instructions in there. And it shouldn't be difficult for the teachers at all. It'd be pretty, I think, convenient. And
I'm using Katie.
Oh, what was that? Oh, I thought I heard someone.
Miriam, can I ask one question?
Yes.
If a teacher does want to submit the video, like let's say they made the video in the studio and the teacher has the video already on their iPad, can the teacher submit it in place of a student?
Oh, I should think so, because you'll have access to that link.
Okay, so I didn't know if it was specific to one or the other.
I don't think so, Felicia, right? Anyone could use that link to submit their items, right?
Yes. Like
Yes.
the link is, but you have to have your registration ID. Each student has a registration ID that they will use to identify themselves in the system. So.
Okay.
That's a good question, Deb. Because I spoke to Alejandro in the event that we have to do this next year, which I hope we don't, we would go this way. But that's a good thought. We maybe should apply instruction in the case that if a teacher does want to register for the student, what information do they need to log in? That would actually be a good thing to put down.
Okay.
Theoretically, whoever fills out the form can submit it, I guess. I've seen the form because Alejandro showed it to me while he was developing it. So, yeah, we should provide instruction. That's a good.
Yeah, and then the instruction will be in the email that the teachers get after registering their students.
Right.
So, so let's see. So yeah, but the video and scores will be due by Tuesday, March 9th. That gives Felicia and Ping enough time to check the links and to make sure that everything is in place, and also so that the judges don't have to have just Saturday to do the judging. They could hopefully start as early as Thursday. That gives them a couple days instead of jamming everything all in one day with all the virtual judging that they have to do. So that was Elaine's idea, and she's a judge herself for other events, and she said she was happy for that extra day or two. Right, Elaine?
Oh, I didn't use it, but a lot of the other judges did.
Oh, okay.
I had planned on doing all of my judging on Saturday, so that's what I did. But this was for the group in Bethlehem for the little competition that they have in November, and the person in charge contacted me by Friday going, "You haven't started judging yet, and a lot of other people are done." And I said, "But I was planning on doing it on Saturday," so that's what I did. But for me, it worked out fine because, you know, when you don't have that time in between with kids going in and out and trying the piano and saying hello and all of that, I was done in record time. So it actually was kind of a pleasant day.
That's quite true. Yeah, there isn't all the conversation that goes into it. That's true. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the Connie Murray? You will get your ribbons and certificates. Ping and I haven't quite worked things out about that yet, but I think it's easiest just to say you would either pick them up in my studio or they would get mailed to you. And you would indicate that when you register. There will be a question on there to ask you how you want to receive them. Any questions or anything? Okay. Moving quickly along. Unfortunately, the winter dinner party can't be had because it would be a house situation, and I think numbers rise more with household gatherings, and it seems like it would not be wise. I don't want to ascribe a mainline event to a super spreader of some kind, and I just, I don't want to. I don't know what the legalities of that would be, but I
I
think.
forgot to respond, but I wouldn't be open to doing it anyway.
Oh, okay.
No, of course not.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And then please don't forget executive board. We have a meeting next Tuesday, and also even if you're not on the executive board or if you're not on the general board, any member can attend this meeting. Okay. So that is next Tuesday, a week from today. So now we will go to our teacher forum, which I feel like we've already been having in a way. And what's wonderful is we can now take some time to share anything that you might be interested in sharing today, or just listening to us share things, or discussing things. And plus, Jonathan is going to actually start us out. He has a nice thing planned for us, a lot of technical advice. So Jonathan, if you could start us out, that would be great.
Good morning, everybody. Teaching under these conditions has been very humbling for all of us. We're being forced to do what we make our students do, is we're being forced to learn new things. And I think the best thing to do is to realize that as long as we stay true to what our ideals are as teachers, and we're aware that we're not just teaching music, but we're teaching students, then anything else that we have to do just becomes a mean towards that goal. So the first thing is to developing a mindset. Much of the time we think of technology as an annoyance, but it's become part of our business. Just like if you own a factory, you have to know something about your equipment and invest in your equipment. If we need to be able to deliver instruction in this way, whether it be exclusively for this time or maybe on a more limited basis in the future, we have to develop some knowledge to provide good service to our clients. What I define as good technology is, number one, that technology does not get in the way of the lesson, and number two, that you use technology to be able to do whatever you need to do to teach effectively. So what I'm going to talk about today is just some very fundamental things that I think are important for providing providing a technical infrastructure so that you can deliver online lessons where technology doesn't get in the way. A little side note. I have provided to Miriam a detailed handout, which I'll show you in a minute. It provides all of the details. I'm going to recommend some things. I'm going to provide links. So I did this so that you can just kind of listen and you don't have to worry about taking notes ferociously. I am providing you with exactly the stuff that I'm talking from. So you have all the details. And of course, if there's any more details you want, we're all friends. Just give me a call. Okay.
Oh, and we're going to put this handout that he made for us
Yes.
on the resources for member resources.
So I'm going to take a minute and just share my screen and just give you can you open my screen sharing, Miriam? Okay. Let's see if that will let me do it now. Nope, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Are you able to go to your security? Wait, I lost you, Miriam. Miriam, you're muted. Okay, let's try. Okay, here we go. Okay. So this is the handout that you'll all have access to. and I'm going to be going through it. Basically, I want to address a couple major issues. Very basic, easy to understand way to understand how to maintain the quality of your internet connection. I'm going to briefly touch up on Zoom settings. The reason I'm focusing on Zoom, I have tested all of the major platforms in my own teaching, and Zoom seems to be the only one that I've found that has actually done work to optimize their audio and video for music instruction. So I am using that. Other people have used others successfully, but I'm going to have a little talk about Zoom simply because it's what I use. The next thing I'm going to talk about is things you can do to optimize the quality of sound you give to your clients, and then things you can do to optimize your video setup for your clients, and then things you can do to help your students take responsibility for the quality of their setup. So you'll see, I just want to show you in the handout, I also will talk about, I made a list of common tech problems that happened in the lessons and their probable causes and ways to solve them. I won't go through all of them, but you can read through this on your own. I've just made this a standard thing. Usually when most things happen with my students, I know what the problem is and we're able to fix it. So I'm going to stop my screen share so you can look at my somewhat pretty face, hopefully. Okay, so the most important thing before we talk about buying microphones or webcams or even your computer, you have to maintain a good internet connection. Now understand something, Wi-Fi, which means a wireless connection, it was meant for talking with your friends, calling your family. It was meant to be used like a telephone. It was not meant for the high performance needed for a music lesson where we need to see and hear in sync and clearly. So the most basic investment you should do before you buy a single thing is your internet connection. So how do you do that? I'm going to make an unequivocal recommendation because I've tried it out every way myself. I was teaching online quite a bit before the pandemic. I really recommend that if you are charging money to teach people online, you should plug your device in with an Ethernet cable to your modem. What do I mean? An Ethernet cable looks like the old-fashioned telephone lines that most of us will remember, maybe not all of us. And they plug into a spot in that big tower that connects to your internet called the modem or the gateway. Your speed will more than double. Now, the problem a lot of people have is they say, well, my connection point isn't near my piano. Well, the first thing I would say is why? You should move it there. Call them up and move it. If you can't do that, here is a stopgap measure you can do that's the next best thing. Some people use Wi-Fi extenders, but they're really not good enough for music lessons. There's something you can use that's better. This is by Netgear, and it's called a Powerline Ethernet. Okay? Costs a bit of money. It's about 80 bucks, but what you do is you plug an Ethernet cable. It comes with two receivers. You plug one into the device and the other into your Ethernet port. If you do not have an Ethernet port, you can buy an adapter that plugs into your USB port and allows you to plug this in. Then you plug the other receiver into a wall and plug the other end of the other one into your modem. What this does is it transfers your internet signal not through the air like a Wi-Fi extender, but through the wiring system in your house. I tested out using Wi-Fi, using a Wi-Fi extender, and this. This gave me about 80% of my plugged-in capacity, and the Wi-Fi gave me about 50, and the extender gave me about 60%, and Wi-Fi gave me about 50%. So now the other thing you can do is while you use this, do this until you move your stuff to your piano. And then after you move your connection point to your piano, if you need to have good internet elsewhere in the piano, your family room, in the house, an office, or your TV room, use this to improve the signal there, because this is more than good enough for cable for other things you might do in your office. So that's important. understand that if you are using Wi-Fi or your students are using Wi-Fi, your connection is going to vary moment to moment based on whether someone else in the household is using the internet. If the student or you live in an apartment, you're sharing bandwidth with everyone else in that building. Or there could be some kind of a blip in the server. Wi-Fi is really not a professional option if you want to give quality instruction, in my opinion. And it does not cost much. I think when I had my connection point move, I don't remember. I think Verizon charged me like $120. I don't remember, but it was worth it. I'm teaching, how many lessons a year? It's worth it. So that's the first thing.
Jonathan, so that Ethernet power line Netgear that plugs into the wall in the regular wall, right?
Yep.
Okay. And one end goes into the computer.
Yes.
And that's it?
And then the other receiver you plug into the wall and plug into the actual modem.
Okay.
And what it does is it carries the charge from the modem through your electrical system to this receiver.
Okay.
Jonathan, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Does this take care of the freezes that you might get? You know what I mean by freezes? What do you gain, in other words?
You'll get much better signal than you will if you're just doing it wireless.
Okay, suppose your signal is good, but you get interruptions. You get video freezing.
Well, here's the thing. There are many things that can cause video freezing. Number one, obviously, if your provider has a problem, there's not much you can do. Like if Verizon has a breakdown, nothing you're going to do is going to solve that. But things that could cause freezing are if you're connected wirelessly and another family member is streaming video in another room. That's using a lot of your signal. If you're in an apartment building and you're sharing bandwidth with the residents of a whole building.
That's what I am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in your case, I would really recommend that you plug your computer in to your modem.
And Jonathan, can I show mine as just an alternative?
Yes.
So, so I put in the chat. I live with a couple techie guys now, and this is actually, it was just my old. Remember when we used to go through our phone line? Well, this is one that actually goes where. Let you see it. This is one that would go into my router.
Yep.
Ends are the same, and it's so old it's actually a little tip is broken, but it will stay.
Mm-hmm.
And the other end goes into my computer. I've got some computers are not are so new that they don't have this.
Yeah, that's right.
I go with the other option, but mine it's just a couple years old and it has one. So so I plug into my router, and I've got this much. I don't know why we had one this long, but we did. And one of my sons showed us an app where you can actually tell what your connection is, how fast it is. And when we used this, it went up like 10 times.
In the handout, I've included 3 links for speed tests. The next thing I also do is I always check my internet speed quickly when I turn on for the day to make sure there's no problems.
And that was kind of fun, actually.
So yeah, it takes about 10 seconds.
It's easy and it was kind of fun.
Yeah. So
and then I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back on mute here because I'm trying to make lunch and my dog is barking.
Okay.
So. But yeah, I really agree.
Another thing you can do before I moved my connection point, before I bought the Powerline internet, I bought a 50-foot cable and ran it up my stairs to my office because I wasn't doing a lot at that time. It was 2 years before the pandemic. I was only teaching 2 or 3 people online, and I would do that.
What type of cable is that?
It's called, the kind you want to get, this kind that I have is called a CAT Cat 6. I think they might be up to Cat 7, but these are cables that will transfer data a little bit faster than really old ones. I bought this one at Staples for, I don't know, maybe $15, I think.
Is that in the handout?
I didn't put the Cat 6 cables in, but I could provide another handout that does. Why don't I add that and I'll revise it.
Okay.
Add cable. The other thing I didn't put in the handout is if your computer or if you're using an iPad and it doesn't have a Ethernet connection, you can buy an adapter It's a device that plugs into a USB port, and then it has one of these holes in it. So you can do that too. If you're using a laptop particularly, because many laptops don't still have those anymore. So that's the first thing, is it maintain.
Jonathan,
Yes.
I just have a question to clarify. Is this device that you brought up, the Netgear thing, okay? Are there two pieces to it?
There's two.
Okay, and you only showed us the one, correct?
Yeah. So one would
Okay,
plug
and-
into your computer and the other would plug into the modem, but it's still better for you to just plug right into your modem.
I understand that, but
What
that
I meant-
requires moving possibly the device. So this would be what
Don't
you
move
brought
your
up.
device. Call your provider and say, I want a connection point near my piano. That's what I did.
Okay.
It's a utility. You're using this every day. You wouldn't want them to put a phone in your attic where you never go. You know, think about it. You wouldn't want someone installing a refrigerator in your attic where you never go. If you had that refrigerator developed, you'd have it.
I just
delivered to your
wonder
kitchen.
too about the
Yeah.
impact on the office situation for my
The impa-
husband, which
the
is where the
impact-
router is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if that would compromise his connection.
What you would do is you could put this in the office, and then he would get a really good connection.
Okay.
That's what you would do. So that's what I did. My wife teaches public school, and that worked out perfectly for her. So, that's why this is good. After you move your connection, if you need good internet elsewhere, this is much better than a Wi-Fi extender.
Jonathan, when you
So-
say move your connection, are you talking about moving the modem from the basement to where you're teaching, for instance?
The place where your internet connects to Verizon or Comcast, the connection point of your entire internet service provider.
Got it.
You know?
Is that the same as the router?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Modem is the same as router. Okay.
Basically, we can get technical. Verizon provides something that's called a modem and a router in one. It's called a gateway, but it's a
Okay.
connection point. Let's not get
No.
bogged up
Right.
in these things.
Going back real quick to what Harriet was saying though about freezing on the screen.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's referring to the students freezing on the screen or if the students are saying that she's freezing on the screen. Oh wait, you're muted, Harriet.
I will get to that.
No, what I was referring to is I do a class, an exercise class, and we get
Uh-huh.
frequent freezes. And I think it's at the instructor's end.
If the instructor is freezing, there's a good chance that it's coming from their end.
Yeah. Because I don't see the participants freezing. I just see the instructor freezing.
Good chance it's at their end.
Okay, so if we're not freezing to the students, then our internet connection's pretty good, I assume.
Yeah.
More than likely. More than likely. But
So, Jonathan, do all your students have what you're talking about, all the Ethernet connection?
well, you know what? Let me do this. I'm going in the last section. I'm going to talk about the student
Okay.
setup, and
Yeah,
I'll address
okay.
that question. I'll tell
Okay.
you what it is that I recommend to my students that has been doable for them. Let's talk about Zoom. We've all heard about Zoom settings. I'm not going to go in depth to them. I'm just going to say that Miriam directed me to a wonderful handout for which I've put the link in my handout, where a music teacher basically put in one document all the recommendations that it took me months to learn.
Oh.
So I'm going to just
Why
quickly show
reinvent
it
the
to you.
wheel?
Yeah, why reinvent the wheel? So let me show that to you really quickly, and then I'm going to just give you a 2-minute summary, and you can pursue it more on your own. Let me get this up for you. So let me, hold on, I don't have the right screen. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, swing and a miss. Let me do that again. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So I have the link to this, and as you can see, can you see my screen with all the things?
Yeah.
She shows screenshots. She shows you step by step how to do it. I recommend you click on the link. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of talk through a few things and give you just a basic summary of the major concepts, and then you can go through it in depth and do it yourself. So go
Jonathan,
through
where will that link be? Is that
in my handout. All
Okay.
links are in one document. Okay?
Great. Yep.
So here's a quick summary. The first thing you want to do is you want to attack your audio settings. So you go to the, if you're using a PC, you go to the microphone, the lower, let's see if it would let me share my Zoom screen. Point is, let's see, will it let me do that? Okay, let's see. I'm not sure if you can see my Zoom screen, but can you? Let me see, how do I do that? Why is it not letting me do that the way I want to?
We see your
Something.
desktop.
Yes, I want you to see my Zoom screen.
Maybe you need to go to the internet?
All right, I'm not going to do it this way. I'm going to just do it talking through. Basically, if you look on the, if you go to the lower left of your screen, if you're using a PC, you'll see a microphone with a caret. If you click the caret, you want to go towards the very bottom. It says audio settings. And you know the things, I'm sure, how many of you raise your hand if you've done this before? Because I don't want to spend time on anything people have done.
And if you haven't, you can do it right now as he's talking.
Yeah, but if you click the audio settings, you'll see something that says test speaker. So you click the button and there's a volume slider. And then there's a test microphone and you'll hear it in your microphone. Now here's the important things you want to do. If you go below microphone, it says automatically adjust microphone volume. You want to make sure that that button is not checked. The reason why is automatically adjust microphone volume is meant for speech. When it hears small noises in the background or humming, it shuts the microphone volume down. And then when it hears its sound, it boosts it. If you're hearing uneven sound quality, quiet loud, or long notes on the student's piano are dropping out, it means that this is probably checked. So what you want to do is tell the computer not to do that. Okay? For suppressed background noise, you can put it on low is fine. Here's the important one I want to talk about. Everyone should know about this, original sound. These computer algorithms, they take analog information, your voice, and compress it into digital, a series of numbers. That creates a kind of loss of fidelity. That's fine for speech, but it's not adequate for music. When you turn on original sound, the computer will not compress your sound and make a digital image of it. It'll try to give back something that is as close to the original as possible. You always want to have this on, and you want your students to have it on. Okay? If you don't have it on, if you hear a buzz in the student's piano, the bass notes are buzzy, the treble notes kind of have a buzz over them, it means that they don't have original sound on. Okay, what this does is it evens the frequency response of the receivers so that you actually hear all of the sounds. Okay, if you go, there's a bunch of other things there. If you click, there's another thing called high fidelity music mode, and I want to talk about that. They introduced this, I believe, in September. Zoom worked with, I believe, the Yale School of Music and a few other schools of music who requested it. And I've found that it made a big difference. I compared recordings of some of my lessons before and after, and the sound of my piano and the student's piano was dramatically better. Although most of the improvements came more from my end. So I want to talk about what is this optimal music mode. Optimal music mode requires, number one, that you connect by Ethernet, and number two, that you have a certain microphone set up. So again, there's a reason why you want to connect to it. To use that optimal setup, I'm going to show you what you need to have in your audio. Okay? So there are many good solutions out there. I'm going to just discuss a few that I feel are doable without overloading yourself with technology, and without overloading yourself with expense. I recommend that you have a microphone that you plug into your computer. Okay? When you use the internal microphone on your computer, it may be big enough, but it's kind of very broad, and it picks up your piano and everything else in the room kind of globally, and it kind of smears over the details. Think of it as lighting your living room with a big flashlight that firefighters would use. Okay, but what you want is a flashlight, something that can be aimed and directed. So a microphone is the best thing to do. So I've given some options, some links that will take you right to Amazon and other sites. There are people, your different options. You can choose what's comfortable. I'm using what's called a lavalier mic. It clips right to my collar. I like to use that because I move around when I teach. I talk, I play, I go to my whiteboard, I stand up and stretch. I also teach voice, so I have to demonstrate things with posture. And I found having a mic, because of what I do, having a mic sitting in front of me was a lot of problem. That's one option. You can get USB lavaliers that are pretty decent for about ranging from 20 to 40 bucks. They're also very good. You want to get a USB, and this is all in the handout. If you get a lavalier mic, you want to get one that's called omnidirectional. That means it picks up sound in every direction. So it will pick up my voice, and it would also pick up a piano. I have a few students who have electric keyboards in not so great rooms, and I had them use a lavalier-like mic, and I get very good sound from them now. So that's a very simple, inexpensive option. That's one thing you can do. So I would say at the very least, that would be a minimum setup for teaching. Get something you can clip. Another thing you can do, if you look at Elaine has a really great setup, you can have a microphone mounted on a stand put there. I would say if you one mic you can get is called a Blue Yeti. I've put a thing on it. It's good, but you have to know how to use it. The Blue Yeti is popular because number one, it just plugs into a USB port. Number two, for the quality that you get, it's not expensive. It's about $120. But number three, the thing that's unique about it is it can be used in a variety of ways. Microphones can be set up to pick up sound in different ways. There's a cardioid mic, which only picks up the sound right in front of you. I use cardio mics when I want to record my piano in my house because it only picks up the sound in front of them, so it will block out sound from the street or the rest of the house. Omnidirectional mics pick up the ambiance of a room, or if there are people on both sides of it. You might want to set your Blue Yeti to Omni so it could pick up your piano and your voice nicely. It also has a bi-directional setting, so if you're doing a podcast with someone and you're both on sides of the mic, you can both talk. So it's very versatile. That's another option, a little more expensive, but extremely effective. Elaine,
Jonathan,
you want to say anything?
Yes, quickly. One of my students played in the master class with Brian Gantz. Well, she was the last one to play, and everybody said, "Oh, we can't hear her speaking." And she is one of my few students who's had a USB microphone since we started. And after that master class, her family sat down, they played around, and they realized that the microphone really wasn't working very well. So they bought a Blue Yeti, and it has made a world of difference. It's just been wonderful. So just another plug for a Blue Yeti.
They're good. Make sure you put it on Omni so that it picks up the piano well. I would recommend, if you notice, Elaine has it on the right side of the piano, not the left. So a Blue Yeti is what's called a large diaphragm condenser, which, long story short, a diaphragm is the plate that vibrates when the sound hits it. A large diaphragm is very good for bringing out warmth and bass tones. If you put the Blue Yeti on the left side, it's not going to be as good because, number one, if your lid is up, the bass is going to have nowhere to go. Number two, if you have the lid up, but it's near the open piano on the left side, it's going to be too much bass. So if you're going to use a Blue Yeti, use it like Elaine has. And if you notice, Elaine has what's called a shock mount. It's hanging. It's much better to do that. Don't put a Blue Yeti mic on a desk because it will vibrate. It will pick up every time you type on the keyboard, it'll be deafening. It will pick up vibrations from your piano. I've seen videos by a very well-known teacher on YouTube, and he does this with his Blue Yeti mic, and I want to grab him by the neck and say, I'm hearing your piano vibrating. Take the thing off your desk. So that's one thing. So I would say your basic.
The only way to get around that is to do what Elaine's doing with a boom arm.
I would recommend that you do that.
Huh.
You can get the type that clip onto a desk for about $50. So,
Elaine,
Yes.
when you adjust your settings for the microphone, it recognizes that and you pick that in Zoom?
Yes, I actually have two microphones. You can see this one here next to me, and then there's another one. I think you can see that one too, that's over the piano.
Yeah.
And both of those are plugged into an interface because these are old microphones. They use XLR cables.
Yes.
And they plug into the interface, and then the interface takes it through a USB cable into my computer. And so they're both on at the same time. And so the other one is designed to get more of the piano sound, and this one is the one I'm talking to. But they both pick up the piano sound.
And
That's
they
what I
both
do.
can be on at the same time. You don't need to
Yes,
select
because
one
of
or
the
other.
interface.
I'm actually
Because of the
that's the
interface.
next thing I'm going to discuss is an internet setup. So that's
Your
that's the first
interface?
thing. Yeah, interface.
Yeah.
So that's the next level, and I'm going to actually show you that now. But the basic level, if you got a Blue Yeti or a lavalier and put that through your USB, you will have decent quality sound.
One more thing. This is a mic stand.
Yes.
That is on the floor, and my other mic is on a mic stand as well. In fact, my overhead webcam is also on a mic stand, and they're not that expensive. If you go on Musician's Friend, you can pick up two. Sometimes they have a
Yep.
special. So
there.
I highly recommend mic stands because they really kind of keep it off your desk and out of your way and suspended so it doesn't vibrate.
Absolutely. I'm going to actually show
Now
a
I'll
little
shut
bit of that too. So that's the first level. Get some kind of a USB mic, either a lavalier if you like me want to be able to move around, or something like Elaine has. The next level, if you want to use the optimal music mode, you have to go to the level that Elaine is at. So an audio interface is a box that plugs into your computer either by the standard USB port, or some of them plug in by what's called USB-C, which is a smaller port, which is much faster. An audio interface basically takes an analog signal, a sound wave, converts it to an electrical signal, and then it converts the electrical signal into a digital. Why is this important? Well, let's say you want to have two microphones, one for your voice and one for your piano, which I do, by the way. I have them both plugged into this interface, and it uses an XLR cable, which is more stable than a USB. If you've ever seen just the standard mic cables in an auditorium, that's basically what they look like. They have the 3 holes in the bottom, and they derive power from the interface unit. And what this enables you to do is I have 4 outlets in mine. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. I can turn them on in pairs. So right now, my USB actually connects with this XLR cable to my interface. It gets my voice. I have another microphone inside my piano. This, like the Blue Yeti, is called a large diaphragm condenser mic. This one I paid a little bit of money for. It's called an Audio-Technica 2035. It's a little bit more expensive, but again, I have a little high-end setup because I'm doing a lot of recording now and making some courses and educational materials. But this is really good, and as you can see, it's on a stand with a shock mount. The best place to put it for close miking, I put it over the soundboard where the strings cross. That gives me a pretty balanced image. I have them both on at the same time, so I can talk, and if I talk, my students will hear my voice in one ear and the piano in the other, so they can separate the sounds. So that's very good if you like to talk while you demonstrate. I found that to be very effective. The other thing I do is I have 4 outlets. The other 2, if I ever want to do a really extended demonstration or if I want to record something, I have two higher end mics away from my piano. I'm not sure if you can see them. And I can switch to those. You don't have to have all this, but if you want to have the high fidelity music mode, I would suggest you get one mic for your voice and one for your piano, and you leave them on at the same time. And then you're always assured that if you want to record a demo on Zoom for your students, the piano will sound really good, and your voice will be really clear. So, but to do that, to use the high fidelity music mode, you have to use an audio interface with one or two mics in it, and you have to use a wired connection. Okay? So that will be good. If you're not, if that feels a little bit, I've put some options. This requires a little bit of an investment. If you want to get a very simple audio interface, I put one on here. Let's see. There's one you can get with two USBs. It's about $130. And then you can get a microphone. If you want to get a microphone that's less expensive than mine, there's a Samson that's about $80. It's very good. And you can get, if you want for your voice, you don't need to spend a lavalier. You could get something like a Shure 57, which is just a really rough mic. You can speak into that. That's about, I think, $50. Now the other thing you need for high fidelity music mode is you have to use headphones. Now, I've made the point, I've tried to convert most of my students to headphones. There's a lot of reasons for this. Number one, a lot of people are home now. People are working. People are in school. I don't want the outside noise in my lesson. So, number two, students have very echoey rooms, and if your voice is echoing back to you, it means they're probably using their internal mic. They're in a really echoey room, and they have their volume turned all the way up. Best way to solve it is just tell them to put on headphones. You don't need to spend a lot of money on headphones. Let me see if I can show you one very inexpensive pair I have.
And Jonathan, may I suggest, but so finally I had a student put on a headset because her microphone on her computer was just horrible, barely picking her voice or her music. So she put on a headset that was the Beats headset.
Those are fine.
Yeah, and apparently there's a built-in mic with that.
Those are
and
fine.
Even though you don't see a mic come out, it's wireless, hands-free, and it made all the difference in the world.
Those are fine. A lot of your students, if, dare I say it, play video games, they have a gaming headset, they tend to work fine. Here's a very inexpensive option. I've put this in my handout. These are Tascam TH3s. Notice that the back of the headphone is solid. This is called a closed back headphone. A closed back headphone is good for a couple reasons. If you have a student in a noisy room, since it's closed, it kind of isolates the sound from the computer from the room. Or especially if you have a student who maybe has a short attention span, I tell them to get these because I want them to listen to me. These are also great if you ever do virtual recording projects, which I'm going to talk about in a 5 minutes presentation. If you ever are listening to one part while playing to the other, you need to use closed back headphones so the sound of your headphone doesn't bleed out into the room. But these are about $30. I conduct an adult chorus, and we've been making virtual performances, and this is the headphone I had them get because it's very cheap. It blocks out the sound. It doesn't have amazing sound, but you'll hear everything. So if you want to have amazing sound, you got to get something like this, but I'm not going to even mention that. So these are more expensive.
Jonathan, I want to mention too that the headset, when I said hands-free, I meant to say wire-free, so that she could play on the piano and not the wires get all tangled up in her arms and fingers. So because one time I had a student use earbuds and it had wires, and she it was knocking it out of her ear. Yeah. So it really is. It's better to have a headset or earbuds that are completely wireless. That's all I want.
Well, I'll give you my opinion on that. As long as there's no lag, A lot of headphones have, like these headphones have a wonderful cord that does this. And because of that, it doesn't get tangled and it drops right to the ground. If their wireless headphones are working out and they have a good connection, fine.
Yeah, that's my question.
You know,
I tried using a wireless headset and it didn't work. My computer just did not work through Zoom.
I experimented with a wireless headset and with wireless microphones, and they were epic fails for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
in
didn't
general,
work.
wireless headsets, wireless microphones are going to have lower quality than something that is wired every time.
I think it's better if you get something with a little bit of a cord that's long enough to move around. Most of these headphones have cords that are quite long.
Or you put an extension.
You can get an extension too, absolutely. But headsets are important. I try to convert almost everyone to them. When I sign up a new student, I ask them. But we'll get more into that. I'll talk more about that. So headsets. The other reason why headsets are good is, I don't know about you, but I'm very protective of my hearing because it's what I do for a living. When I use headphones, I can put things on a low volume and hear it really clearly and know that I'm not. Whereas if it's blasting through the speakers of the room, that's kind of an assault on my ears, you know. So headphones, you want to use those. Let's talk about optimizing your video setup, okay? So let me just talk about what I think should be the bare minimum if you want to teach effective online lessons. The bare minimum is use 2 cameras, the built-in or internal camera of your device and 1 USB webcam. So let's talk about how to do that. If you're going to do that, let's say you have a laptop or a iPad, position it about to either side of your piano, about 3 feet away, about 3 inches above eye level and angled down. So now I'm not using a laptop, I'm using a desktop, but I'm going to show you where I use, you want to basically, your default view should be like Elaine's to the right. So to the right of my computer, I have my webcam mounted on a tripod here, and it's pointing down. And this is the side view my students would see when I want to give them a side view. Wrong one, sorry, hold on. Okay, so they can see my body. Do you notice that you can see my left hand behind my right hand? If the camera is only even with the keyboard, it'll look like that. They won't see you. So you can see when my left hand moves up, you can see when it rotates. So that's why it should be slightly above eye level. And I'll talk about this with your students should set up their thing the same way. If you're using a laptop, you can put the laptop on a laptop stand that's adjustable. That looks like this. Here's a laptop stand I have. It adjusts just like a music stand, and I can tilt it so that it slants and points down. Okay? That can be your basic view. Now you can use your internal webcam if you want to get a closer up, like you're talking to the student, like this. Hello. Okay? So that's a basic setup. Now, the other thing you can do, so if you use your actually, let me make it even more basic. You can use your internal setup camera to give the side view that I showed, and then you can pick up a little webcam like this, and you can get, I've given links. This was very inexpensive. I think it was $30. It came with this cute little tripod. So look what I can do with this. I can use it to show, well, this won't be a good view. I can use it to show music. I can use it to show a whiteboard. I can put it over my hand. If I need an overhead view and I don't have an overhead boom, I can do one hand at a time. I can show rotation. I can show moving in and out. I can show play this note for a rote piece. So I mean, at the very minimum, if you have a little camera that you can pick up and move around, you can get around many situations. This one is great because also, let me see if I can show you this. In addition to this little tripod that it screws on, I can do this and I can put it on the back of my computer or hang it on something. It's very versatile. Can you see that? It's got this little thing here. So that's a good, inexpensive solution. So at least one external camera and a side view of your piano. That will get you out of most things. Now, if you want to go further, if you're teaching intermediate or advanced students, or you're teaching a lot of rote pieces and you really need to get a good overhead view, we need to do what was discussed, which is have an overhead camera. So, and you also need to have a webcam that you need to spend a little bit of money for that. What I have is this.
Jonathan, what is the tripod called? What's the make, the model of it?
There are many. I put a link to a bunch of them on. I put a link on to a page on Amazon that shows you like 20 of them. You just basically, any standard camera tripod will actually work with a webcam.
Well, that little tiny one where.
Oh, this one is a particular webcam, and I've put a link to that. And it came with this tripod. It actually came with the tripod.
Do you think that's a good camera? Because when you held up some music, it was a little blurry.
It's not, to be honest with you, I don't use it for high performance things because it's not really great for close-ups because it has a round wing. I'll tell you what I use this one for. I put it on the floor to show my pedal, or if I need to do something quick, like show my hand really quick. But if you want a better camera, the one that I'm going to talk about now is better. If you get a high D camera like a Logitech, like a C920, they cost a bit more money. They're about 80 bucks now, but these are good for overhead views. I'll show you one. There's my piano. You can show the whole piano. Very good for showing rotation, things like that, for teaching rote pieces. If you put it on
Jonathan,
a
what do you
stand,
have that mounted on?
I'm going to show you. It's called an overhead boom stand. Let me see if I can show that to you. So, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And it adjusts. I can bring it closer if I want to zoom in on an octave. And I bought a little adapter here, which I believe I put in the links, that I screw into it, and it allows my webcam to screw right onto it. And I just leave it there. That's very good for overhead. I got a big, now another option.
The adapter came with it? Did the adapter come with it, or you had to
No, I bought it. It was like $4. I think I put a link to that in the handout.
Okay.
If you're using like a mic stand, you need to get, it's called a 5/8 inch female to 1/4 inch male camera adapter. And I put a
they're
link.
cheap.
Yep, they're $4. So I put a link to one.
Yeah.
If you don't want to use a big tripod, I have a student, I have a really wonderful adult student, and he's very clever. He took a webcam, he used a USB extension cable, and he somehow hung it at the top of a door frame, and it's behind him looking down, and I get an overhead view of his hands. It works.
Better.
Yeah,
I see
have
everything
one.
he's doing.
I have one hanging on my chandelier above the piano. So
There you go. No.
Jonathan, I have a question. When you were talking about your overhead view and you said you could bring it in closer, do you actually lower the stand to bring the view closer?
I can.
Okay.
What I do is I put little marks on the tube so that I always know the perfect location.
Okay. All right, but you can't adjust it through the camera.
Not
through the
through
webcam.
Zoom. When I've made recordings, Logitech comes with a software that allows you to do all sorts of things. You can even record a picture-in-picture. I have 2 of the cameras. So I've made some videos for my students where, for example, I show the pedal and my hands at the same time. But you can't do that to do that through Zoom is another presentation.
Don't worry, it's okay.
To do, I can't do it. Alejandro knows how to do it. I can't. but offline I can do that. So, but yeah, you can adjust this to any height. So let me see, where was I? So
Just
that's
show
my,
me while you're finding your place. Could I show you what I use?
yeah, sure.
It's a totally different system,
Hmm.
and I've always just used my camera. But I've got a little thing that clips it as overhead. But I was a little frustrated that I only saw a couple of octaves. And one of my studio families found this device. It's a wide-angle lens that clips on to the phone.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. Those are great. Yeah.
Yeah. So now what I do is I've got this suspended over my keyboard, and it shows me it does it cuts off the top 1 octave and maybe half an octave down below, but it's really improved my my ability to visualize my keyboard.
There you go. If you're teaching a rote piece, that would work. Yeah, definitely.
And what are you suspending it on, Jean?
It's just you can get lots of different varieties. It's a little claw almost that hooks onto my piano and hangs down. I can go fetch that if you'd like to see it. Here, let me.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things, but I think an overhead view is, I regard it as important, particularly if you're going to teach rote pieces or if you're going to teach intermediate level technique or above. You really can't show rotation adequately unless they see it from above.
Yeah, I use my overhead a lot. There's never a lesson day go by when I don't use it.
I would actually say what I try to do is if I'm demonstrating any kind of a technical concept, I show a side view and an overview and an overhead.
It's also wonderful for teaching theory.
Yes,
That's what I use it for too. Yeah.
That's true.
I take the little erasers and say, okay, here's how you make the inversions, and it's funny.
That's a great idea.
Fun. Yeah.
And Miriam had asked about what I suspended on. This is what I use. This goes on the drop board in my.
That works. Good.
On the
Wow.
drop board, and here's my phone and the wide-angle lens.
Wow.
And this is somewhat adjustable. Sort of gets in my way of sight reading. But it was inexpensive. I think it was maybe $25, and I probably can use it for other things eventually.
That's awesome.
And then
what's a drop board? What's a drop board?
The drop board or the fall board that closes
Fall board.
the piano.
The lid?
Yeah, no, not the lid, but you cover the keys with it. It's the part that you can, I never cover them, but you can.
The lid. You mean the small lid?
Ball board, lid, drop board, same
My
thing.
piano has a lid.
Yeah, not the big lid, but
Yeah.
the keyboard lid.
The keyboard.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be so heavy it would make the lid fall down?
Well, my lid is a little droppy anyway, so I have something that that's another issue. I have something that keeps it from falling down. I've got two. I've got a Velcro and also it's actually a hair device that I heard online works, and it does.
There you go.
Keep my lid up, my fall board up. So yeah, well, it all sort of depends on your system, right? And your sound and things, what works for you. But one thing I would say is if you're considering using your iPhone for the overhead, it's you need to plug it in because it really sucks the energy out.
Yes.
And then
Yeah. It'll run out of battery. Yeah.
It'll run out of battery. But my iPhone, I just log into my account, and I've got a paid Zoom account, so I can do 3 views and still see my students and everything. So that just happens to be what works for me. But this was the best Christmas.
And by the way, when you share your screen, there is a way to pair your iPhone, and it will show your Zoom screen as another visual source. So you can actually pair your iPhone in Zoom, and let's say you can use it as a second monitor. You can do that. I did that when I was showing my student how to download a video on their iPhone to me so they could send it. I shared my iPhone and I showed them how to do it. You can do that, but not essential, but if you have one, you can do it. Why not? Yeah.
But Jonathan, you can plug in more than one thing at the same time on a Zoom call, can't you?
Oh, absolutely.
You can have a tablet and a phone all connected on the Zoom call, right?
So for example, I have 2 monitors, and when I share my screen, I swipe to my second monitor.
Right,
Um,
right.
I have 2 monitors. I have a bunch of different microphones. I have a bunch of different webcams. I think I have 5 webcams.
Hot.
They're
Going at the
all
same
right
time?
there.
Going,
No,
no.
no. You can only have basically one going at the same time, with the exception of if you have an audio interface. I have 2 microphones going on at once. So if I were to play my piano,
Right.
that's getting picked up as well. But if you want to run multiple video sources at once, you need to use an external application called OBS, which is beyond my ability to deal with right now.
Yeah, that's
Beyond mine right now, too.
If you want to know about it, call Alejandro.
I can do it too.
You can
Or
do
Felicia.
Yeah.
Call Felicia.
Felicia, you are
I've
God.
got I've got a dual camera set up where I have my side view take up about this much of the screen, and then I have my overhead camera on the rest. So like this top bit is my actual keyboard.
Yep.
And
It's very nice. I teach her sister, and she has it set up that way at her sister's lesson, and it's so nice because I can check fingering right away. I don't have to like try to see if I can see her fingering. I can just look while she's playing right over her keyboard view. And
I will say that it took weeks of setup. And
Yeah.
also the only reason why it got this far is because I started streaming. So having the dual camera was like beautiful. for
Felicia,
that.
can I propose that if you ever want to do a program on how to use OBS, you could have the whole floor.
Okay.
What would it take?
I'll also do your laundry for 5 weeks.
How long?
Virtually? Virtually?
Really, no, it's really good to learn how to use. But I was looking at it. Should I do it for the Sutton Festival? And I concluded it was beyond my
Taking
ability
too long.
at the time.
It's
But
hard.
it's a very, if you ever wanted to show 2 views at once, that's what you'd have to do. So you
But
can
if-
you can have 2 microphones at once if you use an interface, but you can only show 1 video source at a time in Zoom unless you use this external program, which
Okay.
means you're basically running 2 streaming programs at once.
Is it something that Felicia could share in like a 5 minutes for a new idea thing? Or does it take
I
5
don't think that's a 5 minute.
I can't show you how it
Yeah.
works in 5 minutes,
No.
unfortunately.
It would take 5 minutes to simply explain what the product is and why you would use it. Anyway, so that's that. Another option you can use if you want to go a step beyond, I use another camera. You see I have this one on a tripod. So if I want to show, my standard side view shows my right side, right? Here we go, right? But let's say I'm doing something with my right hand and I want them to see my thumb. Well, I put another webcam to the side of my piano and they got this. And then I can turn it around and show my whiteboard. So, but I like to have multiple set up in place because I put marks on the floor where I need them. I'll go back to facing you. Hold on. I have everything set up so that I can go from one to one without moving things around, and they're in the place they need to be, and the student doesn't notice anything, But anyway, very minimum. Get yourself at least 1 external camera and place your computer in the right place. One other thing, if you're using webcams or if you're using a USB mic, these things draw a lot of electrical power. So now the problem is, let's say you have a laptop or you're using an iPad and it has maybe only 1 USB port or 2 USB ports. What you need to do is you need to get what's called a hub. A hub is something that plugs into a USB port and has extra ports in it. But you need to get a specific type of port. You need to get a powered USB hub, which means that it plugs into the wall. There are some USB ports you can get for like when you're on the go with a laptop where they're not powered. These will not be sufficient for a good webcam. They will not be sufficient for a good USB mic, so it needs to draw power, okay? My solution, because I have an advanced setup and I'm doing recording, I'm actually using a desktop computer that has 6 USB ports in addition to my hub. But the reason you want to use good power is sometimes if you plug a USB port into your hub, your webcam might, if your webcam is flickering, it might be because it's not getting enough power. If your voice is dropping and raising, like you're using a USB port, that, like if you're using a Blue Yeti mic, that means you got to plug the Yeti into the computer or get a really good powered hub. A powered hub like this, I think it was $30, this one. That's important. So, other things you might want to consider getting, get USB extension cables so that if you need to move your webcam around or put it far from the computer, it will reach. Another thing that's good is, you know, find a way to be very neat with your cords. Tuck them under an area rug or get those little cable holders, especially for if you're going to be teaching live again, but you're going to still need to have the online option. You have to keep your studio safe so people aren't tripping over wires.
Yeah.
So organize them.
I know that back when, you know, a couple of years ago, when she would go wacky on her meds.
There you go. So that's important. Other things, if you're using a laptop. Oh.
Jonathan, are you able to mute Carol?
I could.
I couldn't do it, so I'm not.
Yes, I'll do. Let me see if I can. Mute. Okay. All right, there you go. Other things, if you're using a laptop, plug it in and tell your students to do the same. If you're using a laptop, have a fan under it. Using video cameras and mics, heat a laptop up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, if you need guidance with that, go to Staples, they'll help you. So, other things, let's talk about your student setup. When I take a new client now, the first thing I tell them that I let them know the steps, the investments my studio has made to make sure that I'm giving the best possible audio and video to them. I tell them the rest is up to them, so I first tell them, where is your modem? So I have a student who has the modem in the basement. I tell them, well, we're probably going to have problems. Can you buy a really big cord and run it up from your basement to your piano? I have one student that does that, okay? The worst place to put a modem, to have your internet connection point, is in the basement, because your basement is usually separated by some kind of a big barrier.
Yeah.
It's a waste of money to put in to put the center of your internet in a basement. I don't recommend it, unless your studio's in your basement. So, the next thing is I ask them, can you plug in? If they can, the next thing I ask them is is the modem in the next room, or is it a floor above or a floor above you? If it's very far away and they're not willing to move their connection point, I tell them to get the power line Ethernet. Okay? I ask them, if possible, to get a pair of headphones. The next thing I do is, before the lesson, I have a session with them where I set them up. So if they're using an iPad or a laptop, I show them where to position it. I send them a document. It says, put it to either side of the piano, preferably to the right, to your right, about 3 feet away, about 3 inches above your eye level, and angling down. I tell them that if you're using a laptop, please plug it in. Okay? I tell them, if you still are using Wi-Fi, if other people are on the internet, we could get interrupted. Okay? Other things I tell them, please log on 5 minutes before your lesson to honor the schedule for all clients. Extra time won't be given for late arrivals. The same thing we do with live students. You know? That said, I allow a little bit of time between lessons, so if there's a minor glitch, we can still get the full lesson in. So I try to do a little bit to meet them halfway. But it's very important to, the other things I tell them, if you're using Chrome, if you're using Zoom, use the Chrome browser. If they're on an iPad and they've never used it, I have them download it because it works better with Zoom. Other things I do, keep a little set of emergency cards on your desk. You know?
They're good.
Or if I'm fumbling. Those are good things to do. The other thing I do is students were getting very overwhelmed and parents were getting overwhelmed with Zoom links because everything's on Zoom. So what I started to do is I have a little program. I determined it was worth it for me because of the amount of time it sends me. I spend $6 a month for a program called Right Inbox that works with my Gmail. And what I do is I set up a weekly email for each student that includes their link and it includes reminders like, you know, make sure your original sound is on, make sure you have all your materials, and it has their link, and it sends it 24 hours before their lesson every week. That way it comes right up on their email. I just found that I couldn't rely on all of my students to save their links. Oh, the other thing is I set every appointment up. Don't use your personal meeting ID because personal meeting is like giving someone your personal phone number. Anyone who gets it can jump in. Generate a unique link for every meeting. And what I do is I set up every student as a recurring weekly meeting. And then I save that link and I put it in that recurring email. And I concluded that, you know, for me to send out whatever it is, 6 or 7 links every day, that was costing me, I don't know, about 16 or 17 minutes. 17 minutes a day, 5 times a week. That was over an hour. That was 4 hours a week. I said, yeah, 6 hours a month is worth 4 hours of my time. So I just did that. So those are good things. They have the link. They know that it's there. I also set up an email in advance when I know there's a vacation week and there aren't lessons. You can do a schedule send email on Google. The beginning of the year, the week before Thanksgiving, the week before Christmas, all in September, I set up my emails to remind my students there are no lessons this week. I set up an email to provide reminders of studio classes and recitals. I did that all in advance. I'm not a good multitasker, so I like to automate my administrative tasks because I'm not good at doing a million things. So I try to get those things done when I'm less busy. Other things, give your students guidelines. I tell them, close all your browser tabs, close your social media, turn off your text alerts and your pop-ups if you're on an iPad. My younger students know that Mr. Flowers has his iPad alert face. When I hear ding, 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 I just make a really weird face and they know what that means, you know? So things like that. I discourage the student from using Bluetooth speakers because they make your voice echo back. I tell them use headphones. Let's see.
What do you mean by Bluetooth speakers? Are you talking about earbuds and AirPods?
Bluetooth speakers, meaning a speaker that connects to your computer but without a wire. It's an actual speaker where they would get
Stuff
sound
that's not
from.
in your ears. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like a Bluetooth speaker, it's an actual, do I have mine here? It's an actual external speaker, but it's not a wired connection. And the problem is that there's a lot of lag and echo with them. They're fine if you want to listen to music. When I make a recording, Felicia, when I make a recording, I always test it on a Bluetooth speaker because I know people might be listening to it. But so I would say headphones. I have a document that I give all of my students that has my guidelines. And I just make it clear to them that, look, I'm doing everything I can to ensure a good experience. If you can do some of these guidelines, we won't have to think about technology again. So these are the things, just the main thing that I would say about technology is you don't have to become a technology expert, but you do have to become an expert at knowing what things affect the quality of your lesson. So by doing a few things, making a few simple investments of time and a little bit of money, you can ensure that you're giving your clients your best possible service. And if you can also set expectations of them so that they're doing things on your end. You're never going to eliminate every possible glitch, but doing these things will get rid of a lot of them. The last thing I will say is in the handout, I provided a short spreadsheet of about 10 common technical problems that come up and easy ways to solve them. So when you get the handout, you'll see that there. I put links for, I think, just about all of the products that I showed. You click on them and it'll take you to Amazon, or it'll take you to a few other places. So, so those are kind of the things that I recommend. But I guess, does anyone have things they want to add or ask me about or go on to something else?
Deborah has a question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I texted it in the chat, but you mentioned a document that you send out to your students. Is there any possibility that you'd be willing to share that with the group?
Sure. I'll make a
you-
separate handout and I'll send it to you.
That would be wonderful.
Yep.
I had one other question that I thought of earlier. I have a friend of mine who teaches music in a school, in a private school. And she was so proud of the fact that she, for the first time, used Zoom. And she said that her students, one of her students complained that it was all garbled and jumbled and everything. And so I told her, well, you need to have original sound. And she didn't know anything about that. But I'm wondering if the teacher, in that case, the teacher's generating the music and sending the music out, but the students are just listening. They're not coming back and playing music again. Do they need to have the original sound also?
Original sound captures sound input,
Okay.
not output. So you're using original sound so that your sound does not get compressed when it goes to them. And they're using original sound so that when they play for you, you're getting a good image. So if I use original sound to, if I'm playing a concert to just people who are listening, I should use an original sound. I don't think that them turning on original sound will have an effect on the sound they hear.
Nope.
My understanding is that it affects the sound that you put out.
Yes.
That's what I thought, and that's what I told her, but I
Yes.
wasn't 100% sure when I told her that. So now, thank you for confirming that.
And where do I get this from? I read the explanations that Zoom provides of it.
Okay.
And this is what they said. They said it affects the way sound is imaged and compressed. So that would suggest to me that it's dealing with input sound, not output.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, and thanks
So-
for your presentation. It was so detailed and well thought out, and I really appreciate all the time you put into that.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to say is I did not major in computer science. I would even say 20 years ago I would have called myself a technophobe. The way you learn about these things is don't be afraid to ask people. The way I learn about everything is I say there are so many people in the world that are much smarter than me, so I'm going to learn what they know. So call your colleagues, go to workshops, go to MTNA, go to Zoom. Zoom actually has wonderful seminars. I've attended about 10 of them. And they're taught by people who are professional trainers, who know how to make things clear. They know how to answer questions. If you you don't have to be crazy, but the things you want to learn to know are, how do I get a good internet connection? How do I set up a webcam? How do I set up a microphone? Where do I put things so that my students can hear and see me? Oh, there was one other little thing that I wanted to mention, lighting. So if you have a big shadow on your face, the way you correct it, the ideal way to light yourself is what photographers do is they use what's called three-point lighting. So one light right over the head, one at a 45-degree side, and one at another 45-degree. So like I have, so that I don't have the best lighting in my room. So you don't have to do this, but I had to. I have a photography light there. I have this little clip-on light, and I don't have it directly shining everything so that I can see my desk, but it also puts a little on my face. And then, of course, I have my overhead light. So if your students are not well lit, Other lighting problems that can happen. Sometimes if you're combining indoor light with light from outside, you can get weird images. If that's the case, you can close your curtains and just use electric light. Or if you have a really sunny room and you're teaching during the afternoon, you can sometimes get results by just using natural light. But sometimes mixing the two doesn't work. So other lights that are good, the Torcheri lights, if you don't like direct light, if it's getting onto the ceiling and onto your face, that'll work well. So one problem I haven't totally solved, my overhead view when I show my keyboard, I have my ceiling light is right over my keyboard and it creates a glare. I'm trying to figure out what to do about that. But I don't, other than turning off that light, I don't know what to do. Felicia, do you have any ideas about that? Because you're really savvy with video.
I mean, with lighting?
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
One thing that I have a problem with my students is they almost always have a lamp on the left side of the piano that shines right into my webcam.
Yeah.
And I have to get them to angle it, or they have a window right there, and I have to get them to close the curtains. Because backlight is the worst.
Yeah, actually, when I do my initial setup with students, I actually I do address that. I'll say,
Jonathan, what kind of a light do you have overhead?
I just have a soft, regular
is this floodlight?
Yeah, it's an indoor floodlight. Yeah. It's a recessed ceiling light.
Well, I guess a cheap way is to put something over it, like a piece of paper or something to diffuse the light.
I'm thinking of that.
My husband does that when he uses his camera. Sometimes, like for the flash, sometimes the flash gives you too much. He'll just take a piece of paper, like a napkin.
Yep.
And just tack it up over the light, over the bulb.
Yeah, softening.
It'll soften it. Yeah, it'll diffuse the light.
Another thing you can use. I use this little guy when I want to show my pedal. I put this on the floor. It's called a Lume Cube. You can also clip it on the back of your computer, but it charges in your USB port. And if I want to show my foot, I put it at 45 degrees to my foot. So like I would put.
Is that a battery? Does that have a battery in it?
It's charged. You charge it by plugging it into a USB. But like if I want to do my foot, I use my little handy dandy little mini camera.
Yeah. What was it called again?
It's called a Lume Cube.
Lume Cube.
L-U-M. It was about $20, I think. Way I set it up is, let me see if I can show you. I need to get another camera. I can't figure out how to do this. Hold on. This is a challenge. Give me a minute. I'll figure it out. Let me switch to my other
kind
camera.
of stuck for a moment on that question, but then I realized it's because I'm somewhat limited in what I can do in my house in terms of like ugliness and cluttering the room.
Yeah.
And so, I think that even having one lamp with softened lighting at one side, like behind the computer, if you're facing the computer,
it should work.
Will be sufficient. Yeah.
It should work. I have a little bit of an unusual situation in my room, so I had to be invented. But what I did is there's the camera that's going to pick up my foot. Then I have this little light at a 45-degree angle. So now if I want to show you my pedaling, and I just marked a spot on the carpet that usually is good. Let me get to it. So, whoop, I didn't put it in the right place. Hold on. I usually have a marking spot on my carpet, but I vacuumed it, so it's not there. I have to set that up for my lessons today, but let me see. Oh. Well, normally, before I start teaching, this is all set up. And then, there you go. So that's what the Lume Cube is good, So, anyway, I'll go back to being on camera. So with a little bit of thought, you can figure out a lot of solutions. So
So we'll just have to call you, Jonathan.
Yeah, yeah.
well, anyway, most of the work we do is very important. It's so important to keep people making.
I think your lavalier fell off.
Yeah, your mic
Yeah.
fell off.
My goodness. I'm back. Thank you. Anyway, so that's good. I hope I've offered a few things that maybe could be of help. Thanks for a bunch of you. Gave a bunch of great ideas. Jean and Elaine and Felicia, and a lot of great ideas here.
Yeah, and Jonathan, thank you for being the backbone of this forum today. I know we contributed as you went along, and this has been a very good session for us.
I'm glad.
Thank you for your
Thank you very much.
so
major
good to
part
see
in
all
it.
you. I really miss seeing everyone in person. So when
Sure.
this thing is over, we got to do. We
Have a
gotta
party.
Do something nice.
Yeah, we do.
We
Yeah.
gotta go crazy.
Yeah.
I will say that my pending move to be permanently here in Florida and the ability to remain a member of PMTA, since I still have students in Pennsylvania, is a wonderful thing. And for me, I may travel up there and be able to see you sometimes, but this is nice to be able to do it this way, to be able to connect and stay connected. For me, it's a big thing.
And quite honestly, I've been thinking about this. When we do get back to normal in person, I think we need to have it so that there's also a Zoom link going on. So even though we're meeting in a room, there's also a Zoom for people who can't be with us. I think that's important to kind of continue what we've started.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah.
I have a question. Anybody heard any news on what's happening with Jacobs? I know they're closing the store on 202 in February. Have they found a new space? Anybody heard?
I haven't heard. I was wondering that.
I thought I heard something about another space. I don't remember where it was.
Last I talked to Bruce Cohen, they had not found a space. I last
No?
spoke to him about 2 months ago.
Oh,
Because I was trying to figure out, what to do about us. So.
right.
Yeah, I don't know. Ugh.
Are they going out of business?
They said that they were looking. What Bruce Cohen told me is that they were looking for another site. That's what he told me.
Right. Okay.
There are lots of open places in Westchester. I look around all the time and I'm like, oh, that would be a good one for Jacobs. That would be a good one. But who knows what the cost is?
Who knows? Yeah. Oh boy. All right. Well,
Yeah, the rent might be too high.
okay.
Yeah, so I guess in another month or two, we should call him again and see what he's done.
Maybe I should call him. Why don't I call him next week? I'll put that on my list of things to
Oh,
do.
that would be nice. Thank you, Jonathan.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This was great.
Thank you for all the
Thank
information.
you.
So the handout, you're going to give the handouts in an email?
Yeah.
Are you
Yes.
gonna- yeah,
I already
okay.
sent the handout to Miriam, but
Okay.
but you wanted me to add a few things to it,
Yes.
so I could do that quickly and then send you a revised version.
Yeah, and
I
then
could
send
just
me a revised version, and then we'll have Felicia. Felicia will actually put it up on the member resources
All right.
section of the website.
Yeah, that would be bad. That's good. That way you don't have to worry about, you know where it is. Yeah.
All right. I will add the two resources.
Thank you, Jonathan, for all you
Thank
did
you.
on that. It's a little overwhelming for somebody who's not tech like myself. And I apologize. I had to take a phone call.
No
And so I
problem.
missed the tail end of it.
Good to see you, Carol.
Yeah.
But I intend to print it out and use some of it.
Yeah,
Or try to
please
use
do.
some of it.
All right.
As you all know, this session has been recorded, so you can always go back and rewatch.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
All right.